So, wow, Selwyn, you have some facial hair that is unfamiliar.
Yeah, really?
How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you, Randy?
Yeah. Good, good. Do you know Alberto?
I don't think I know Alberto, but he has an equally impressive facial hair.
Well,
I
you guys introduce yourselves. You both know us, I think.
okay.
Yeah, well, hi, Selvin. I'm Alberto. Yes, I'm living in Zurich, and yeah, I've been using DDEV for many years now, like since 2018, I think, or 19. I don't remember now. Many years, and I've used it everywhere. And in all the companies I work on, I always ask everybody to use DDEV. So
Nice.
yeah, and I
What
contribute as well a bit. So.
what are you a Drupal person or what
I used to be Drupal developer for many years until I got a bit like tired. I wanted to move on a bit, but now I work mostly with like PHP and e-commerce systems,
oh,
and that they are running also in DDEV, like Magento software. These systems mostly PrestaShop as well.
cool.
So
Cool.
yeah,
Nice. Well, I'm Selwyn. I live in Austin, in Texas, in the US, although originally from South Africa. I'm a Drupal developer and also been using DDEV for a good long time. Also try to convince every place I work to flip
uh,
over to it because it's so much better than anything else. It's
yeah,
just, and Randy and Stas, I mean, can't compare.
Yeah.
true, true.
Go ahead, Stas.
I'm Stas Zhuk, DDEV maintainer. I live in Kremenchuk, Ukraine, and I've been working on DDEV team from autumn 2023, and it also feels like I've been working here so many years already.
It's
It's
compressed
because
time.
Yeah.
you've done so much to make it so much better. It's just astonishing. It's so great. I'm Randy Fay. I'm the lead maintainer of DDEV, and we're going to talk about Mutagen today, which probably this crew knows a lot about anyway, but it's going to be fun to walk through it and show the new diagnose tool and that kind of thing. So that will be fun. And maybe Selwyn, there'll be some tidbits that can be added to the book. Oh, you
Um,
didn't tell him. You didn't tell Alberto about the book.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm the author of an online resource called Drupal at Your Fingertips, which is my labor of love that I created. Just all about coding in Drupal, and it's open source, so people can contribute to it and all that. So
And he always has every personal thing that he is his personal way of working with DDEV, he slips into the book. So I imagine.
yes, and then Randy comes and fixes it sometimes. He's like, Darwin, you didn't get this right. Change this. Do it this way. Okay. So,
Alberto, are you on Mac OS?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And Selwyn, I'm pretty sure you are.
yep.
And I try to work everywhere so that keep up with what everybody's doing. So I switch back and forth, but probably I use the Mac more often than not. And Stas has to be weird. So
Linux.
Yeah, Linux.
not just Linux, not just Linux.
Oh, really? His own distro? His
No,
own custom, of course, he's got
not
his own
yet.
custom distro, right? No?
Yeah, I'm using Manjaro. It's Arch-based Linux. I
Okay. I've heard about it.
think
Yeah.
I'm going to go full Arch someday, but
I thought
I'm
you
happy.
were full Arch. I thought you were Arch only.
Mm,
No, not yet.
yeah, that's Stas.
Arch, with Arch, you don't have to worry. Every morning you'll get a breaking change. So
Nice.
Yeah,
it's
well,
but
it's usually everything is fine, only sometimes.
Uh,
yeah.
That's the kind of Linux you want to have that breaks every day. Nice.
I do appreciate Ubuntu quite a lot. Um, it's a great path to go. So yeah, let's go ahead and get going. We're recording this, and I've got a blog post in progress, and DDEV Head has a nice new tool that we're going to use. And I put together a minor a minor presentation to try to just guide me through this. But as always, feel free to speak up and mention your own experiences and that kind of thing. So we'll have a good time with that. Um, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll just go through this. And if I'm annoying switching back and forth, just let me know, and we'll figure it out. Uh, so yeah, so I just had Claude throw the I just had Claude throw the presentation together based on the blog that I'm working on. And let's see if I can need to get rid of a couple of things here. Well, I don't know whether I'll be able to. I want to get rid of the captions because it's making too much of a mess in front of me. Afraid I don't know how. Hang on just a second. I love captions, but in this particular case, it's too much of a mess. And I have a hard time getting the controls out of the way as well.
Yeah, that can be a little drag.
I
They
don't.
just appear over everything.
Yeah, yeah. Now I've got it moved to the other screen, so now I can do it. If I use Zoom more, I'd be better at it. I really do like a lot of things about it. So the fundamental for almost everybody that uses DDEV, because mutagen is such an amazing thing, and because the community effort and our effort as developers has been so enormous. Um, Most people don't even think about it or worry about it or do anything about it. But the basic idea is that it decouples your in-container reads and writes from the host machine, which was the real problem with on all Mac OS Docker implementations. They just weren't fast enough, and the the way Mutagen works, the way our implementation of Mutagen works, is it keeps a cached copy of everything on a Docker volume, and then when something changes on the host, it is just handed over to the mutagen instance that's running inside the container, and it applies it, or vice versa. If something happens inside the container, a file is created or changed inside the container, it gets handed off to the host. So that's the technique. You can think of it as two little agents or mail people or whatever, handing off changes or files to each other across the boundary between the host and the inside of the container. Um, so the I think probably those of you that work on Mac have seen what used to happen without mutagen. It was really painful. Web serving was really slow, and it was because what happens with these modern, and it wasn't a problem with like Drupal 7 or whatever with a modest number of files. But as we got into the composer build world, and you end up with tens of thousands of PHP files that are needed to be loaded, all of them by PHP FPM, all of those have to be checked all the time um, against against what's going on the other side of the divide, especially inside. So PHP FPM to run a website, to render a website, would have to open those 10,000 or 20,000 or 80,000 files, and every time it would open them, it would have to check and see if they change. It doesn't check, but the operating system checks, and it's a shared file system situation. And so as these modern PHP systems with Composer got huge, it just got it got to be a just a terrible thing. But I remember one developer saying that the first time they tried DDEV, they just cried because it was so fast. They were so happy with it. It was great. Selwyn, are you using are you
Sorry, what was that?
using you're using Windows today? Are you using WSL2 or are you using traditional Windows?
No, I'm just on the Windows
Oh,
machine
gotcha.
for this
Yeah.
call. So
All right.
I have
Gotcha.
used Whizzle 2 though, and it seemed to work fine.
Yeah. So the actual functionality of what Mutagen does, you don't really have to know much about, but it creates a Docker volume, mounts it on var www in the web container, and then it pushes a mutagen daemon into the web container. The host side mutagen daemon is started by DDEV on the host, and then they talk to each other. And so each side keeps up with the other, and you get, especially inside the container where PHP FPM is working, you have native file system speed because you're actually working on a native file system. You're working on an ext4 file system typically. Stas, I was thinking as I was writing this that we could actually put the mutagen daemon into the container and skip that push part. I'm not sure whether it's important or not, but I had never really thought about that. We could have that in the container
Mm,
by default.
Yeah, it's I didn't know any internals of Mutagen, but if we can do it right inside the container, it would be better for everyone.
It'd be a little better. Of course, and I don't see, it would have to change when the mutagen version changed, but it doesn't ever change. So, by the way, one thing about mutagen in our plans for the year, I noted that mutagen is actually a risk because the developer of mutagen, Jacob, uh, got bought out or hired or whatever by Docker Inc. And he doesn't really have any time to work on it anymore. The quality of the mutagen project is so high that I don't expect that to be any trouble. And he is keeping up with, dependencies and that kind of thing. It's not an immediate threat, but it's certainly not his priority. And I would say it's not the open source project is not Docker's priority at this point. So there is some risk there. On the flip side, many of the Docker providers are getting much faster, and so mutagen is not quite as fundamental as it once was with VirtuoFS and with the implementation like of OrbStack. Mutagen is still great, but it's not not fundamental to every single situation. Uh, Selwyn and Alberto, do you use what Docker provider do you use?
I use Docker Desktop. If that's
Oh, you,
the brother, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
same. Same.
Oh,
I
you
have
use Docker
tried
Desktop?
Colima once, but it was working pretty much the same. I didn't feel any special difference, and I continue using Docker Desktop because it's also improving from time to time, and for me it works okay. So
Very, very cool. Thank you. Oh, it's interesting. OrbStack has certainly picked up, and people have overall a good experience with OrbStack as far as its quality and maintenance. Docker Desktop has new bugs added to it quite regularly, because they're always trying to do something that looks cool for everybody and doesn't matter to most people. But I'm glad it's working for you. Um, yeah, so on DDEV start, DDEV starts the daemon if it's not working, if it's not already going. Stop flushes, and DDEV Composer does, if you use DDEV Composer when you're doing composer things, it takes care of all the mutagen things that need to be taken care of. And DDEV Mutagen Reset is a good thing um, if you're thinking about massive changes on the host side, for example, because it destroys the volume that is used inside so it can recreate it and start it over from scratch. And
Sorry, Randy,
yeah,
what are the circumstances when you'd need to do that? Just if you're doing major changes to the data on the host?
the reality is it's really uncommon.
Okay, yeah.
But there, yeah, I was actually reading through the blog post on this and I was realizing how uncommon it is. But if you do a DDEV stop where mutagen can't work, and then you check out a completely different branch with a gazillion changes of files, especially files that weren't there before or that have changed,
Right.
and then you do a DDEV start, it's a bidirectional sync. And so there is a possibility that in that situation, you could get something from both sides. I haven't heard of a situation like that for quite a long time. But you can completely beat that with a DDEV mutagen reset, which essentially destroys the container side of everything. And then you do whatever Git stuff, like do some huge changes and then do a DDEV start, it syncs from scratch.
Gotcha.
So
Thanks.
does that make sense? Yeah. It's a good question because it is uncommon, although it's in the troubleshooting instructions. But basically, DDEV mutagen reset makes the host completely authoritative and rebuilds what's used inside the container from scratch. So the standard technique that we use for excluding things from mutagen is the upload DIRs directive, which is normally done by default. So, for example, on Drupal, the site's default files is automatically excluded from mutagen, and we use what the traditional bind mount technique, where, for example, site's default files is bind mounted and not synced by mutagen. So, because it doesn't need to be. Remember, the problem here is PHP FPM having tens of thousands of PHP files open in the container. It doesn't matter these random files or images. They're not important in that thing. But you might need to list other things. So, for example, node modules, or if you have, I've worked on a project or two that had like a huge set of checked in font files, and you would probably want to bind mount those. PHP doesn't care about those. Those are not, those don't need to be, even appear on the host or anything else. Uh, so if you have directories like that, that's the technique, and the new diagnose tool does help with that. But I do know that upload DIRs, originally when we were working with when we were working with files, first of all, the DDEV import files command used the first element in upload DIRs. It used to just be called upload DIR. And then we overloaded that and started using it for mutagen management. And so that's when we end up with multiples only in complex setups. And so upload DIRs could have a better name. And Stas, we probably, maybe in the long term, we could think through separating the function of what does import files do from what is excluded from mutagen. But we'd probably be better off having an exclude from mutagen config element. It would be clearer.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't understand what relative path is used here. Like it's relative to doc root, not application root.
Yeah, so if we did it over again, or if we added an exclusion parameter, it could be relative to the project root, and it would be better. Yeah, good point. Yeah, it actually is, and that's something that this needs to mention, is that the upload DIRs is relative to the doc root, which is almost always different from the project root in modern PHP stuff. So one thing, if you have an enormous project, it can take a while to do initial sync. But if your initial sync is taking 5 minutes or 20 minutes, or if later syncs are taking anything like that, then something is terribly wrong. And it's usually large files, or I've seen people get in this situation where they were like working in WSL2 and mounting a Windows file system and running mutagen on that. So there were two file system hops along the way. Anyway, if it takes forever to do that initial sync or follow-up syncs, then something is terribly wrong. And it's usually upload DIRs, but it could be multiple file system mount changes. So both of those are possibilities.
I have one question here, if I may interrupt. Andy, so when you say initial sync time, you mean when it runs like for the very first time, or when you are running the dev start, which is supposed to resume the previous session?
Yeah, so it's when it's done for the first time. So here's an example. Is this big enough? Can you see this?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yes, I can see.
If I do a DDEV mutagen reset here, then I have essentially, I'm getting ready for an initial sync. And so it's slow when you run Zoom or something. It's amazing so now that volume has been destroyed. And so now if I do a DDEV start, you'll see that the sync time is going to take a little bit because I've actually introduced a couple of problems in here. So this is a Mac, it's an ARM 64 Mac, so it's still pretty fast, but you see it's taking longer than you expect it to take when we do a regular DDEV start. It took only 18 seconds, right? But the next time we do it, it'll take like 2 seconds or something because it had to take all the stuff that it found that wasn't in upload DIRs and it had to copy it into the container, into the Docker volume. If I do a DDEV restart now, after that sync has been done, the first time it took what, 18 seconds or something.
18 seconds, yes.
Yeah. And now this time we'll see what we get. So it just checks. Yeah. So it took no time, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's the difference that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Randy, it strikes me that upload DIRs is kind of a bit of a misnomer in my mind. It's almost like it makes more sense to specify the directory that should be mutagened rather than the directories that shouldn't be mutagened. You know what I mean?
It would be even better if we could say like only do PHP files.
Right.
Because I don't think I haven't really experimented in a lot of senses with other project types. Stas just today put a new Python project up again. I don't think it matters to a Python project or a Node project how any of this works. It's really a PHP FPM thing. So if you could just say sync PHP files and that's all, that would be like perfect. But I don't think that Mutagen knows how to do something at a level more discrete than directory. But you're absolutely right. Except I just don't know how you would specify only directories that have PHP files in them.
Well, I mean, in the case of Drupal, it will obviously just be the web directory or the Docker.
No, you'd be your whole vendor directory. So,
Oh, right. You need your vendor directory too.
and vendor is the most important, probably.
Oh, okay.
It can be also configuration files and other things that are not PHP that are needed, right?
Right.
So it's complex, but I'm quite
Yeah.
sure it could be done better. I'm sure that we could have a better named configuration, and that upload DIRs is a confusing thing. So
Yeah, I've never quite understood it. I'm glad you explained this because it makes a whole lot of sense now. It's really just identify things that PHP FPM doesn't care about.
that's right. That's
It's
exactly right. Thank you for that.
it's ignore PHP files
Yeah.
basically in these places.
AI put that in the to-do list for the blog post. So we already talked about DDEV mutagen reset and when you would do it. It's unusual, but it's a good troubleshooting technique because you fundamentally get a new set of files in the container. There are ways to get screwed up, and I don't know whether I can demonstrate one. You can have the same file changing on both sides, but it takes work to do that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So, um, so simultaneous changes is unusual. This slide could be better here. So
Couldn't you run a composer install on the host and a composer install in the container?
that would be a way to make it maybe happen. I could see that. I could see that doing some weird stuff. So
I know it's giving Stas nightmares.
I, I've said this before, but I had tried with DDEV syncing tools before, and they were not reliable enough to even do this stuff. I was really surprised when Mutagen worked out. I really didn't think it would work out and still be a fundamental tool 5 years or I don't know how long it's been, 5 or 6 or 7 years since we implemented Mutagen, and I didn't expect it to be reliable enough. And yet people just use it day in and day out without even knowing what it is or knowing any of the things that we're going through here. And it's quite unusual for people to have problems or for us to hear about the problems. Of course, that's always the problem as maintainers is do you actually hear about the problem? But we have a great community that does help us to know about these problems, and it's fundamental to us to listen to those. So, I mean, we just don't have many problems. There are a couple of people in the world that hate mutagen because they consider it added complexity, and they would rather turn it off and not have the speed because they get the clear, they don't get any of the complexities that we're talking about. So, some best practices, my opinion, Git operations are best on the host. There are some weird things that can happen if you use Git inside the container, mostly because inside the container is a case-sensitive file system, which matters a lot when you're working on the Mac. If the case of the file inside changes, which happened on a Drupal patch last year, somebody just thought they should be changing things randomly, and it caused a lot of trouble because Mac OS and Windows, but not WSL2, have case insensitive file systems, and inside the container you have a case sensitive file system, and so you can get some weird stuff with that. Anyway, do your Git operations on the host if possible. Usually it's possible. It's unusual to do it otherwise. Use DDEV Composer instead of Composer because that ensures that everything happens inside the container using the version of PHP and Composer that you expect to use. And it does a mutagen sync before it's done. So you don't have to think about any of those problems. If you do massive changes, do a DDEV mutagen sync. If you work inside the container and use Composer in there, do a DDEV mutagen sync after that. Usually you would be working slowly and that wouldn't matter in that case. So disk space can matter, depends on how much trouble you're in. When we do an example with this DDEV utility mutagen diagnose, which I'll just do right now. This is in head right now, and it'll be in the 1.25.0 next week or pretty soon. We're just trying to button up the release at this point. But here I have my project that I've been working on, and I can do a DDEV utility mutagen diagnose here, and it will take a look at what the problems might be. So I added some problems so that we could see what would happen with the problems. So you see, it did check and showed me that all my volumes on 42 projects, I have 4.6 gigs, which is not that big a deal, but it's an interesting factoid. You see that I have in my project volume, I have 7/10 of a gig, which is more than I would have expected, and I'll show you why. And it's complaining about a node modules directory, which of course we don't need that to be synced by mutagen. So it tells us what to do with that, what to add to it. And then it is complaining about a very large file because I do have a 273 megabyte file in there that it's having to use. So it told me what to do about that. And of course, what I need to do is move the dumps into the dot. We have a magically excluded directory called .tarballs, which just comes from my habits over the years. So if I use .tarballs, that automatically takes care of the problem. And then if I use upload durs, this is a Drupal project, but I set the project type to PHP to demonstrate a different problem. So I think I'll show you that problem first. I'm going to do a DDEV SSH, and this is a classic problem. This only happens when people don't have a project type of Drupal 11. I think Drupal is the only misbehaving thing. So when you do a Drupal install, Drupal thinks it's really smart and it likes to make the site's default directory unwritable. And DDEV tries everything it can do to beat that back. But if you tell it that it's not a Drupal project, then DDEV doesn't have a way to know that that should be the case. So this one right here is a project. I'm going to change this to unwritable. So I just changed site default inside the container to where it's not writable. And now now everything's going to be wrong with this. If I do a DDEV launch, it's going to say that everything is ruined, can't open the directory. And DDEV can tell about this. I don't think we even have to restart. It's going to show us that there is, in fact, a specific problem here with the container file system. So it tells us this in the past, before this tool is arriving, this was a very, very complicated thing to try to figure out. But this is exactly what would happen is that a Drupal installation, a web-based installation or a Drush-based installation would set the path to unwritable, and then Mutagen couldn't sync between the two of them. So this gives the tools that you can use to solve this here, and those are actually good ideas, and we can solve it by just doing exactly that.
And the problem basically is that DDEV can't tell it's a Drupal site because someone has specified it's a PHP project.
That's exactly right. So all the things that DDEV would be trying to do, desperately trying to do to make sure that site's default was set right, DDEV can't do because it doesn't know it's a Drupal project.
I mean, you could add some smarts to DDEV if you wanted to, right? To poke around a little deeper if
Well, DDEV has the smarts.
Yeah.
And DDEV, if you tell it it's a Drupal anything project,
Right.
Because Drupal has done this as long.
Since the
It
beginning
did
of
it
time.
in 4.5. It did it in 4.4. Drupal has done this forever, and it's silly. It's not appropriate site management. But Drupal has always done it, and I haven't tried to make Drupal not do it.
No, but I'm just saying you could add some additional smarts that if someone specifically accidentally select the wrong project type, it could go poke around and say, I think this is a Drupal project, just letting you know.
Well,
Right.
DDEV already does that, so I
Oh.
can do a DDEV config dash update.
Right.
Update, and DDEV will say, "Oh, you should be using a Drupal 11 project,"
Yeah.
and that actually would solve the problem as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, and this has only come up a few times.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought this
It
was a big
only comes
common
up
problem.
when you do a manual install
Right.
of a PHP type project.
Yeah, no, that's not
So,
worth that's not worth
but
the
it is
time.
one that you can tell that I'm familiar with.
Yes.
So now if we do a DDEV start, it will do the mutagen sync, and at least a couple of our problems will be taken care of. Yeah, we'll take a look at that in a moment. So those are the
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you went to Vi the config YAML, I didn't see Vi popping up. Did it pop up somewhere else or?
But maybe I just bailed on it. I think I
Oh,
was
okay.
about
All
to.
right.
You know what it was is I realized then that the answer wasn't completely correct because it's a Drupal project.
Okay.
And so it also wasn't excluding sites default files. So
Okay.
I wanted to make it into a normal project and then see what it was going to tell us to do and do it. So now we have gotten rid of our warnings and our problems. We have the upload DIRs set, but it's telling us what to do here to do the things that we want to do. So we will just add the upload DIRs to it. And you note that you do have to have, first of all, that it's relative to the doc root, and second of all, that you do have to add the thing that would have been added by default. So Drupal by default adds sites default files. And so now we should be able to DDEV restart, and that will exclude the core node modules from this setup. So that's the essence. The tool is pretty cool. It solves all the problems that I have come across over the years. There are other things listed in the docs, like doing a DDEV mutagen st-l over and over while the initial sync is taking place. And that works, but this tool makes it kind of irrelevant. You don't even have to do it. There are other tools, DDEV mutagen monitor. Let's see if that works for us. So it shows it watching for changes. And if I open another window and it just did it. It was just too fast. Tarballs is completely excluded from being in here. So there you see it going, and it was super fast, but you saw it happening. So DDEV mutagen monitor is a useful thing. We've talked about DDEV mutagen sync, and let's see.
One question on this: does it work also when you are initializing the project? You can monitor it and see what files are being synchronized.
Say that again.
Does this tool, this monitor works also when DDEV starts? So you could see what is being synchronized. And now we see all these dot, 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 dot. But can we?
Yeah, you can see it right from the beginning. So I think that would be the technique here. And so if you're doing it from start, we can actually do that. We'll just do that reset, and then we'll do the start over here. So it's going to fail until we do the start.
Oh, yeah.
So now we can see what it's working on as it's starting up. So it's useful, but it was so fast that we hardly even saw it working on anything. So
this is while what? While true, do DDEV mutagen. So mutagen
yeah,
is
and this is in the docs. The docs are uh, the docs are extensive and of course overwhelming. But if we
As all docs are meant to be.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like Drupal at your fingertips. You could
That's
never
right.
read that whole thing, you know?
Completely overwhelming.
Yeah, here it is in the docs right here. So it's but they're there, and so when at least you can give an authoritative statement to somebody about a way to deal with it. So that's a good thing. So troubleshooting steps. First of all, make sure that your project works without mutagen before you blame it on mutagen. So it's that's kind of the thing. I don't really ever encourage people to fiddle with the mutagen configuration, even though you can. And I've seen people do it, but it these days the upload DIRs is the way to fix almost anything. There's just rarely a reason for anybody to use anything except the default. Couple of more things about what you can do to restart or see the logs. Let's see if the DDEV mutagen logs here does us any good. Um, not, oh, it says it can't do it the first time. That's right. Yeah, there we go. So DDEV mutagen logs you usually have to do twice for reasons that I don't know. If I do this, it's going to show what it had to do and show how fast it did it. You'd probably want to grep it if you really wanted to learn it, and you have to understand what it means and that kind of things. But that's there as well. I don't know that people actually end up using that. We've already talked about excluding directories. There's a fancy little technique here that you could have a DDEV mutagen sync automatically run on a post checkout on a Git, but it's unusual. So and you can disable mutagen globally, and you can disable it on a project. For teams, it's by far the best that you configure mutagen globally so that it doesn't impact their work on their project. So if you're working on Mac, you probably want mutagen on, but you don't want it on for other members in your team unless they want it. So that's why you configure it globally. So anyway, that's the whole thing. Any comments or thoughts or anything that you might have to add to this, or things that you've experienced along the way?
Yeah, I can share my experience with this. I mean, I have this problem with the dots a lot, and I mostly use sites that are ephemeral, so they can be destroyed any moment. It's most likely for testing another thing, so the site itself is not really important. So I have really never really consider how to fix one specific site. Like for example, for Magento or so, where I have experienced like 5 minutes of Mutagen sync sometimes. So with these tools, I'll take a look a bit more in depth about what's going on there. But that's about it. I mean, I think in general it was quite okay. Sometimes I also have experienced some delay with the synchronization, that I run a command, for example, a clear cache, that expects some files to be there, and they have not yet been synchronized. So that I have experienced. So usually just wait a few seconds and then rerun it, and it works fine. So no problem. But I have one question: is that you publish the 2026 expectation or some kind of blog post about it, and you mentioned about moving Mutagen to a container. So can you explore more on that?
Oh yeah. In our thoughts, I maybe I put it in our 2026 plans.
Yeah.
So there's two things, one that we talked about today and one that was in the 2026 plans. Or maybe it was just a kind of a brainstorm. But today, Stas and I were just fantasizing or theorizing about the fact that we could bundle the mutagen daemon inside the container so that it didn't have to be pushed on mutagen start. Because right now on a DDEV start, that mutagen agent has to be pushed in there. And I haven't even ever noticed that happening. Not sure how big that is, but it would make some sense to bundle that in the container. That's kind of a technical detail. It's like, when does the Linux agent get installed in the DDEV web server? So it's kind of a technical detail. But what I might have mentioned in the 2026 planning thinking was that there is a different way that we could do mutagen syncing, I think. And it could be done completely inside the container, where there were two mounts, a bind mount and a volume. And PHP-FPM would use the volume, but mutagen running only inside the container would copy back and forth between the bind mount and the volume. And that would simplify the technical implementation of mutagen in this situation, because right now, mutagen is running both on the host and inside the container, and it could possibly be cleaner for it to run only inside the container and to be syncing between two file systems inside the container. It's an interesting thought. I don't
You
know
mean
whether it's
the
worth
web container, right?
Say again?
You mean the web container?
In the web container, that's right. Yeah.
Because I think I read that Mutagen also has some mode for it can run in its own container, and
It does.
also that is how you call it,
Sidecar. Yeah.
sidecar as well.
Yeah.
So they have like different modes as well to run.
We experimented with the sidecar approach way back in the day, because Jacob Howard did like that technique. And so yeah, that would be another technique. So that's worth remembering. We've had such a good experience with Mutagen over the years, and it's had so much fine tuning and so much community input that we just kind of, you forget about the actual implementation or the possibilities of doing it another way because it's just been so good. It's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I know that we're at the end of the hour and you probably all have meetings to go to, but I'm glad you came.
I had one last question just in terms of globally disabling mutagen. The reason to do that for your team is that if some people don't have Macs or
Yeah, so just a better way to say it is make the mutagen configuration global. It's default to on Mac OS and traditional Windows.
yeah.
So you don't even have to think about it. It's default to off on Linux and WSL2. So you don't have to think about it there. If you are on Mac and you don't want mutagen on any of your projects, then just set it globally
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
to off, and that won't affect anybody on your team. And it lets you do what you want to do. If you don't like mutagen or whatever, you have that capability.
Or if you just hate saving time. Good. Thanks, Randy. This was fascinating.
Oh, it's fun territory, even though most of us don't have to think about it very often. It's fun territory, and it's great to see you all. And thanks for coming.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Randy, can I skip you for
Oh,
a couple of
of
minutes?
course.
Maybe it was fast.
Is it on topic or off topic?
It's off topic.
Okay, I'm going to end the. Oh, no, I'm not going to end. Okay, good. I'm going to end the
And
share,
stop
though.
the
I'm going to
recording
stop the
now.
recording. There we go.